In 1930, psychologist B.F. Skinner decided to test a group of rats and their reaction to stimulants. These rats were placed inside a cage where they had one lever that, when pressed, released massive amounts of dopamine to the rat's brain. The results were wild. What resulted was perhaps the most dramatic experiment in the history of behavioral neuroscience. Rats would press the lever as many as 7,000 times per hour to stimulate their brains to death. Nowadays, humans are placed in a similar position. Every day there is a variety of dopamine-stimulating sources competing for your attention. Social media, porn, junk food, drugs, and much more. It's a constant battle to see which platform can benefit the most from your unhealthy habits. Just like the rat, most of us just spend countless hours doom-scrolling or binge-eating just to feel stimulated. It's a hard world, especially for younger generations. Most of us live a half-assed life. We're never truly dead, but never truly alive. And in trying to feel something, we fall towards cheap and unhealthy dopamine sources. They're great to generate a quick high, but it doesn't last. It destroys our health, body, relationships, and even our mind. As we slowly build tolerance, our needs grow, and our control over our bodies decreases exponentially. It's not hard to fall into a downward spiral nowadays. In a suicidal society where destroying your future to have some fun is considered normal. These ideals are the main cause of many of the problems we face today as a society. Mass shootings, sky-high suicide rates, a new spread of mental illnesses, and much more. All because our manufactured society has left us wanting more and more to try to find something real in a man-made world. At first, it feels good. It's a sense of re-love. Nothing is solved, but the volume is simply turned down. Whether it's social media, junk food, porn, or weed, it feels great. But the main problem with any addiction is that you start to build up a tolerance. It might come in a sense of wanting to stay for longer, eat more, and smoke more. Eventually, you become so addicted and dependent that the addiction is not for pleasure, but to not feel bad instead. The addiction has become so profound that you don't do it to feel good. You just do it to not feel bad, to not feel what surrounds you. So you increase the amounts and start feeling again, but reality turns over time darker and darker and darker. Just a couple of years ago, a video between 15 and 20 minutes was average. People used to sit and watch 15 minutes of the same content. Nowadays, especially younger generations have a deteriorated attention span and levels that are completely unhealthy for humans. Today, we have 30-second long videos where half of it is just some random footage with the sole purpose is to keep our brains entertained and high in dopamine. What most people fail to realize is that these dopamine-enhancing activities not only affect them in the long run, but also affect them right after they stop receiving the stimulant. It's a similar case with coffee. Many believe coffee is a magical bean that creates energy. But really, it just takes the energy your body has been saving up to last for a full day and spends it in a shorter period of time. It's the same with ecstasy. It's the same with social media. There have been studies where it has been proven that those who are better at controlling their urges naturally have better results in their life in the long run. This is the case of the marshmallow effect. Creator Clark Kegley explained this in a video titled, "Cheap Dopamine, the Modern-Day Devil Ruining Your Life."
You may have heard of this next study. After all, it's one of the most famous ones of all time. The study was conducted in the 1960s by Walter Mischel of Stanford University, in which he took groups of children between the ages 3 and 5, and he placed electrodes in their head and they hit a button until they died because they had too much dopamine. That was a joke. They're not the rats, don't worry. He brought the children into a room one by one, and he placed a marshmallow in front of them on the desk. He then informed the kid that, hey, you can eat this marshmallow right now, or if you wait 15 minutes, I'll come back and give you 2 marshmallows. Obviously, 2 marshmallows is a better deal, but man, when you're 3 to 5 years old, 15 minutes feels like 15 hours, doesn't it? Some children ate the marshmallow right away. They said, screw it, I don't want to. I want this right here, right now, instantly. Where others waited for 15 minutes and they got 2. What's fascinating is when they followed the development of the kids that delayed the gratification, waited the 15 minutes, they not only had higher SAT scores, better self-image, healthier relationships, they had lower rates of obesity and drug addiction. Now back to you.
Now, dopamine isn't all bad. In fact, it can be one of the best tools if you know how to harness its powers correctly. We've already covered unhealthy sources of dopamine such as junk food, porn, etc. But we haven't covered the healthy side of this chemical. Activities such as working out, going for a walk, and others activate the dopamine chemical in the brain, which causes a pleasant feeling right after. Just as someone could go on a downward spiral, they could also go in an upward spiral. Getting in the gym, focusing on their mental and physical health, and eating healthy. These are just some dopamine segregating activities that result in exponential growth in the long run. If you got this far, consider watching our takes on self-development and everyday habits. Stay zoned.